Sunday the 10th, Mother's Day. It's about almost 8 o'clock. I was glad it was supposed to be rainy all day. It looked like as of yesterday, and then when we woke up or got out of bed, it was, I don't know, 10:30, and we had a couple hours of relatively clear skies, and so that was nice. And then it's just been kind of rainy and shitty the rest of the day, but no biggie. Um, yeah, so really tried to be on the positive side of things today. Of course, it's Mother's Day, and wanted Angie to have an awesome Mother's Day. Of course, with the caveat of under the circumstances, which is something that in our house doesn't really need to be said these days, or in our family, close-knit family. You know, everything's under the circumstances. You know, it's like I'll ask Lydia, you know, how are you doing today? You know, and she'll say, you know, fine, and so forth. But we all know what each other means. It's fine under the circumstances. Getting along the best we can under the circumstances. So it's kind of windy. Might be picking up a lot of wind. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, so one thing that I forgot to mention that was, I guess, humorous in a gallows humor kind of way was like, I think yesterday I was talking about yesterday morning that I was trying not to have any breakdowns or like, you know, crying while I was laying in bed, like I had the previous 2 mornings since we were home, or 3 mornings, or whatever the fuck it's been, and which was the case. I didn't like break down crying in bed before we got out of bed because I, I didn't want Angie to have to, like, you know, console me, and that's how her day starts basically. Not that she would not be completely willing to do so, nor would I, obviously. And I ended up consoling her, but then, you know, when I got up out of bed, whatever, morning bathroom break, you know, sitting there on the shitter, and thought of something, you know, some memory of Nathanael, and that's where the first breakdown of the day came, right on the shitter. So yeah, I think humor is so crucial to our human experience. Definitely is to my experience. I mean, that's something that's just been huge, just in our family, just huge. You know, it's like everyone's got good banter, everyone's got good crack. Um, you know, they can spin a yarn well, and I think at times, not necessarily right now, but you know, sometimes you'll make kind of a gallows humor type of a joke or a remark, you know, during maybe some of the worst times, and people that aren't as, you know, maybe as funny, or, you know, get put off by things easily, or whatever, you know, it's like they have a weird reaction to it. But through this, I've been thinking very much, you know, it's like, I mean, Nathaniel was hilarious. I mean, he had a very sly, he could be sarcastic, but it wasn't in like a cynical way. You know, he had like a positive way, like he liked to sneak one in. It kind of reminded me of my dad, you know. Actually, my Uncle John, I remember at my dad's funeral, which we conducted it more as of like a celebration of life thing, because he wasn't anything you could accuse of being a very religious guy. So my brother and I spoke, and then we opened the floor to people who were really close to him to maybe tell a story. And my Uncle John was one of those guys. But I remember him saying something to the effect about my dad, that, you know, he was so adept with his humor that sometimes he would say something, and it would be a couple of seconds later that, you know, you'd be like, wait, was that just a joke, you know? And that's kind of how Nathaniel was, you know. But anyway, So trying to have a little gallows humor. Um, and I thought if Nathaniel knew that I was breaking down crying over him on the shitter, he'd probably get a chuckle out of it himself. I think that people that don't have an appreciation for gallows humor have probably never stood on the blocks or had their head in a noose, figuratively speaking. Um, anyway, our humor goes a long way in the Doherty family. But anyway, so today I wanted to just have a positive day. And another thing that is really, it's like the fingers or the tentacles, or, you know, when a death happens, it's close to you, especially this close to you. It's like it touches some of everything, you know. And then, you know, there are things that, you know, there's no rule book, there's no, I mean, I think grief is such a subjective thing. And for example, you know, it's like you think, it's like, okay, when is the right time? When is it okay for X? When is it not too soon? When is it too long? You know, there's so many things. It's like, um, just to have just a huge belly laugh, just like like from the complete inside, like you would have normally when some cloud of, you know, loss and misery isn't floating over your fucking head every day, you know. So it's like, okay, if I feel that, you know, coming up, you know, if I'm watching a movie or what have you, you know, or like uh, when is it okay to watch a comedy and try to laugh? I don't mean okay in some, you know, global or universal way. Like, I just mean self. This is a self thing. One has to answer this for themselves or their family or their wife or their each, or I mean, together as a couple or friends or whatever. It's like in your own little tiny unit. Um, and of course, in our home, we have me and my wife, and then uh, three children, two of which are very young adults, and then one is not too far from being an adult. And we all have this individual experience of grief and loss, and then we have our collective, and these things all overlap. But it's like the other day when we had family time here, and my mom came over, and my brother, and then when my mom left, uh, you know, we watched a funny movie, and it was good. It was good to laugh because, like, there's a part where you want to like vicariously, like, you think, okay, it's like, what did Nathaniel go through in his last moments, or which appeared to be peaceful, thankfully, as far as the coroner, you know, described everything as far as anyone can know. No one ever will know 100%, and those are things you have to be fucking comfortable with. Is no one will ever 100% know exactly what happened, or how it happened, or exactly when it happened. We will never have that fucking answer. Not days past, not years past. And I think things like that are, it's like you might as well reconcile that in your mind, you know, as quickly as possible, you know. And, you know, there are these desperate tricks that your mind can play, you know, like, well, you haven't actually seen him, you know. It's like, what if there's some grand mistake and it's not him? And it's like there's gonna be a phone call, and it's like, oh my God, you won't believe what happened. It's like this huge mix up, this huge thing. And the body that's lying, well, was in the coroner's office now at a funeral home in uh, out west, and some intricate foible and mix up, all of a sudden it's going to like come to light, and he's still there. Just, you know, um, but then you'll like think, okay, well, I wish I had been there so that sorrow, or maybe I could have taken some slack, so I shouldn't allow myself to be happy. Because if I allow myself moments of happiness or true joy or elation or what have you, or pleasure, or too soon, in what is too soon, that's nothing I could answer for someone else going through the same thing, and they couldn't answer that for me, and I couldn't necessarily even answer that for one of the people in our family that's going through this. It's an individual experience. But the other day, that laughter and that comedy was good. It helped us, to have some release. And I found myself going from like Tuesday night late, having found out the situation, to then was that Friday night, that the family was over, and it's like there hadn't been. I mean, minutes hadn't gone by where it wasn't present in my mind, like what had happened, what's going on. It's just constantly this situation in my mind. And then I found myself at some points during that family night and that movie time, all of a sudden 15 minutes would go by, and then it would hit me. I was like, I haven't even thought about Nathaniel's death in 5 minutes, or whatever it was, 15 minutes, couple, 30 seconds. And of course it would, come back, and then you think about it. But there were these little like moments of time, and then you cry a little bit less each day, you know, and then, but it's so easy to feel guilty, because then you're like, well, I didn't cry as much today as yesterday, so it's like, is it not as important to me today as it was yesterday, or whatever? But it's not that, it's just your fucking body healing. It's your mind. It's your spirit healing, starting to. It's like if I had a horrible cut yesterday, and then it bled a shitload at the beginning, and then later that day I had to change the dressing, and then the next day I had to change it 3 times because there was no seepage, but the day after I only had to change it twice. And then you get out there, and it's like it starts to mend, it starts to heal. And this is this is what we do. This is what we this is part of how we live, is we seek for joy and togetherness and oneness, hopefully in peace with one another, and to be a good friend, to be a good family member, to enjoy oneself as much as possible. Like, you don't have to heap to yourself tragedy. Tragedy will fucking find you, you know. And be thankful when there's years in between these things, or a decade. Holy shit, 2 decades. Uh, but you say to yourself, it's like, well, I didn't cry as much today as I did yesterday. And then it's easy to feel guilt for that, because it's like, but that's how it is. It's like there's going to come a day. I don't know when it will be. I don't know if it'll be this week. I don't know if it'll be a month from now. But there will come a day when I go an entire day and I don't cry about Nathaniel's loss or over a memory of him. But on that day, it won't matter to me any less, I won't love him as my son any less. That's just a sign of healing. We're resilient fucking creatures. We're human beings, and we're built for distance, and we're built for fucking speed. And we're built to regenerate the wounded tissue in our minds and our emotions. And sometimes that tissue ends up being scar tissue. Some of it ends up being healthy tissue that still works. And I don't necessarily think that we get to choose what kind of tissue grows there any more than we do from a regular wound on our bodies. It's just whatever it is. You know? But you do what you can and you do what's best, you know. But it's been a good Mother's Day under the circumstances. I haven't seen my wife cry. Maybe she did. She took a nap at one point. You know, she was tired. But we had a fucking, you know, it's like the kids, you know, they all bought her thoughtful, sweet gifts, you know, and they were already, I mean, that stuff for the most part was like already in the works before any of this, you know, as far as things they ordered and whatever, you know. And then I got stuff for her and my mom. And we made her favorite thing is our homemade spaghetti sauce. So we started cooking that about 11 o'clock, and the kids helped. And then Caleb, he made some custard, which I haven't had. And that was another thing. I don't know if I even said this the other day, but he had made some, and he sent a picture to our family because we have like a hometown Facebook message, and then we had uh, that's all of us here just in our household, and then we had like and everyone and my wife and all of our kids and me that, and then we had like a whole Doherty family thing. It's like all of us, wife, kids, everybody, and then my brother and my mom. And I think he sent one to my brother and or to that big group while we were out of town, and was like, "Oh, I made custard," you know, and it was the first time he ever made it. He's a very good cook too. Really, all the kids are good cooks, but the boys have done it professionally for a couple, several, more than 2 years. Uh, and he knew he had to have known something was wrong, you know, because we were supposed to be home Friday, and here it is, fucking Wednesday afternoon, and I just messaged, you know, and I was like, "Is everybody home?" Or I was like, "What's everyone doing? Is everybody home?" And we were already at the airport, and you know, one wrote and the other, yeah. And I was like, "We'll be home soon." He told me later that he almost knew what the situation was, just like I did. When it's like this fucking phone rang, it's just like when I before I called back the message service or whatever, or answered the message that they left the voicemail on Tuesday night. Well, as soon as we walked in the door, he was like, "Hey, you want to try, you know, my custard?" And I think he was just, you know, trying to cheer us up. And I told him, you know, it was like I told him after we had told the kids about Nathanael passing away. I was like, you know, and I love a good pie, I love a good custard, whatever. I was like, that's the best custard that I've ever had. You know, that wasn't bullshit. Like, it was the best custard I ever had. And there's just these fucking overlaps of just joy and shit like that. But Angie and I, we have, you know, we're very passionate with one another, and you know, we have a great sex life and all this. But since, you know, the other day, I mean, we've held each other, we've kissed and things like that, but we haven't done anything really sexual. And you know, this morning, you know, it's Mother's Day. I wanted her to start off with an awesome day, so you know, we had a for the first time since hearing about all this, and I was just glad. I was just glad to be able to make her feel good and to give her pleasure, and then you know, we, you know, just had a great, you know, short time just making love before we got out of bed and before we started the day. And uh It's like everything, every everything. It's gonna be a first. It's like these restaurants are shut down and stuff. You can't go in, but like there's gonna be a first fucking time that me and probably Caleb at least, and who knows who else. Maybe I'll go myself. I don't know. It's like we'll go sit down at our fucking booth. It's like if you go to the Waffle House and you ask the people who work there, if you were to come and like show them our picture and be like, "Where's their booth?" People know where our booth is. Oasis Diner. People know where our booth is. But there's gonna be like the first time, we go and we have coffee, and Daniel couldn't be there. You won't be able to be there. It's like every fucking thing like that. Or like when we go back to camp at Friendship, Indiana, where he just loved, like that's where camping came alive for my kids when they were young, and travel and other places. Like that first time you have to go, and then there's gonna be first Father's Day, and there's gonna be first fucking Christmas, first fucking Thanksgiving, first fucking their birthday next year, and then there's gonna, it's like me and my brother, we're gonna take them out, both the boys for their birthday when they turn 21. It's like it's just gonna be Caleb. And that memory will always be there. They're just like the empty stool will always be there. But what gives me joy is when I see the pictures and the things that people share, and when I look back at the last 2 years, especially since turning 18, I mean, he had epic, epic fucking adventures. Like, most people never pull the trigger on fucking shit in their lives. They just live scared. They just go by the status quo. They don't launch, their fucking dreams. And it's like Nathanael, both of the boys have. Uh, and it's coming for the girls, but it's like Nathaniel did courageous fucking shit like this first time that he left on his own. He thought he had a job out in Nevada, and then that didn't turn out. Well, he just caught a bus down to the South Rim at the Grand Canyon where I worked when I was 19 or 18, when I was 18. And he had no jobs, he had no prospects, and he just bought a fucking tent. And I had sent him out there with like camping gear and stuff that he got extra stuff from us, and he camped for 3 weeks by himself until he found a job on the north side, and then he worked there for the rest of the season. I mean, I have extreme, like if he would have been just, I take a great deal of solace in, I know 100% that where he was, the adventure that he was on, what he had done before that, what he was doing every fucking day out west since he left home, like whatever it was, 3 something weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, he was doing exactly what he wanted to do. He was exactly where he wanted to be. He was calling his own shots. He was seeing the United States. He was seeing new people. He was experiencing things exactly how he wanted to. He knew exactly who he was. And most people my age and older are not doing what they want to do. They don't know who the fuck they are. And even if they do know what they want to do, they don't have the fucking balls to do it. So I take an extreme amount of solace in the fact that in Nathaniel's 20 years, he was self-examined. He did what he wanted to do. He went where he wanted to go. He left an amazing mark on people's lives for the positive. And though I regret deeply, and I would do fucking anything that I could do to make things not like they were, or not like they are right now, that he's gone, I don't have any regrets, like, on behalf of his life, how he lived it as an adult man after he was out on his own and all this kind of stuff, and just how he did things. Anyway, that was longer than I intended to talk to myself. But I guess that's what these are for. Anyway, gonna run back over to Mom's for a little bit with my brother, Clay. Caleb probably go, and we'll probably share some custard with him. And then we're gonna have a good family night tonight. I think play some cards from a card game that the girls got Angie, and I don't know. Maybe make some more love. Have a shot of whiskey. Who knows? But the After Diaries continue.